Hello, tank top redesign, cutting, rebinding, and hoping for the better. Well, I saw this top about, I would say probably in 2024 or early 2025, and I'm thinking about improving it. So that green top is the sample of a pattern that I designed, and I designed multiple variation of that top, and then I pretty much, my wardrobe is samples of those designs, and they have issue. There are things that are good with the top, things that are not so good with the top. And for this particular one, I think it's a little bit tight in the armpit area and or armhole area, and I think the front neckline can be a little bit down because it's past the clavicular bone, and I think there is a little bit of gap there, but also is a little bit, I think it can be better if it's down a little bit. So the purpose of this is to just cut up the neckline instead of trying to, you know, remove the binding at the top, just cut around that area out. So for the back neckline, it is okay. So I just cut raw at around the bias binding area there, but for the front I lower it. And the reason why I lower it like that is, by just looking in the mirror, and while you have that top on, you can see I wanted to have the top a little bit below my clavicular bone, and that top, the design was a boat neckline design, but I think it can, if it's a little bit below the clavicular bone, it can fit better on my chest. At least that is the idea behind it. So because it's a little bit past my clavicular bone, close to my neck, I use that measuring, where it is to below my clavicular bone to cut the front neckline off. So now I'm adding a teardrop um, keyhole at the front, and the goal is to use a contrasting bias binding or bias strip to do the binding, but I'm going to show the binding at the right side of the fabric. Again, a way to just make variations of the same pattern. You can have the binding showing up, and I think the binding showing up can add some design to that simple design, if that makes sense. Make it like a decorative, make the binding a decorative feature of the whole design. So the armhole, I remove the binding out of there as well, instead of taking on removing the thread. I just cut that side off, but because the armhole is kind of tight in the armpit area, I wanted to lower it down a little bit. So in this example, I lowered about 1 inch or so, and just curve the lower part of the armhole so that I can cut that area off to blend it in, keeping in mind that the front pattern, the armhole is narrower than the back, so the back armhole is wider. So I make sure I only cut the front armhole um inward, and then I will do the pretty much here I did both ways, but again I didn't cut it all together, but I did it separately so that I can keep the back wider than the front, similar to the original design. And having the chalk line um, um, easy to see from the back, I can just continue the measurement there. So that is the way I did it. And then we are just going to finishing up those those car, because they may not be necessarily perfect. And in this instance I have the top um, flat down with the inside out while I'm making those cards. Okay, so from this we can refold it again to have the center front and the center back, so that we can join both armhole left and right to see if one is deeper than the other, and cut them to line them up. And as you can see, there is one that is now, there is some part that are not matching, so we can just use the chalk to retrace it. So the one that are already inward, we can cut the one that is outward to match it. So we can take away, but we cannot add. So we can just take away from the side that are sticking out so that it can match the side that are already deeper inward. So we can put it back to see how it's looking, and so far it seems to be looking okay. But as you can see, the back has some gaping there though. So we will see how, if that issue will resolve by the time we are done. So here, that we wanted to use that red, but we end up using this green instead. And so green on green but different shade. So we put that bias strip on it, and that bias strip could well be 2 inches, 2.5 inches wide. And it just seems to me that that armhole is a little bit wide, don't you think? The binding, so it is showing the design on the fabric, but I think is wide. It was a design I was going for, but by looking at it, I think it's a little bit on the wide side. So that's something we can take note on, so that next time we are making a top and we want to expose the binding, we can make it a little bit smaller than that. So we are using the same principle. We sew the binding inside first, like with the wrong side of the top out. We put the binding on top of it, the right side of the binding on top of it, and sew it. And then we iron it and take it out, put the right side of the top out, and fold it and sew it on the right side to finish it up. By sewing, that's the same thing we are doing for the neckline. By sewing the binding, finishing it up on the right side allows you to see what you are sewing, so that you can sew carefully and have the thread well on the binding. You might miss some spot, but it just allows you to have a cleaner side of the stitching outside of on the right side of the top. That's why we start binding from the wrong side of the top and finishing it up at the right side of the top. And we turn the neckline binding into a tie for the collar as well, for the keyhole closure. And in this, I pretty much sew it all the way to the end of the binding, fold the edges of the binding strip, the bias strip in, and sew it all around. So the neckline is sewn, the bias binding is sewing on both edges of it. You don't have to do it necessarily like that, but in this example I did it like that. So as you can see, the top is done, and that binding, having a solid color for the top and using a design fabric for the binding, and in this example we use a green but just different shape. So what do you think? I think the 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 armhole is bigger than I wanted, so maybe that 1 inch down that I did, I shouldn't have done it by just cutting that old binding off. I think I made it wider enough that I didn't have to lower 1 inch lower, because my kami can be seen through there. But other than that, it looks good. So what do you think about the back? The back seems to me that there is still some gap in there though. So by just trying is, and that's how you see issues on what you are designing, and you can think about how you can improve it and write down your options and try one option at a time and see the impact on it. But since I'm going to be wearing it with a cardigan on top of it, it won't be seen, or maybe if somebody seeing it might think it's a part of the design. One thing I noticed it though is those top, when I first sewn them, some of them they have gap at the back, but over time it mold against my back. So I don't know if washing and drying process soften up the fabric to the point that they improve the design improve over time. I'm not entirely sure, but my main issue with the top was more the armpits. But now we can see that the top is below my clavicular bone, but I think it's more down than I wanted, and I think the teardrop is a little bit bigger or wider as well, and I think it's more so at the neckline. I believe I did 1 inch wide at the neckline and 2 inches deep. So 1 inch that I did at the neckline area for the teardrop, I think I could narrow it down to maybe a half inch or so to see the impact. But that is the redesign of the neckline. So what do you think about the finished product compared to the original one? Which one do you like better? And I'm going again is I try um to improve it, but then I had more issue more issues were created. But I'm going to wear it, and who knows, as I'm wearing it, maybe what I think is an issue may not be an issue, and other issue might arise. That's what I noticed it. Even those samples that I'm wearing, because I'm trying to create patterns, basic patterns to um to build my wardrobe, my work wardrobe, and I will use quilting cotton, simple 100% cotton for my top, and for the sample. And what I noticed is that those samples are not perfect, but they are good enough to be worn. Therefore, I will wear them, to work. And that's how my wardrobe, my tops, they are all samples of different patterns that I design. Keep designing, like I will sew one and I will say, okay, now it's not good, this needs to be fixed, and then I'll redesign it again. And each time I will sew it, I will sew the sample to see if the pattern is good, and I say no, it's not good, this is not okay. Maybe this variation, I need to try this variation. So multiple iterations generated multiple samples that are my actual wardrobe that I've been wearing for more than a year now, just fine. So now I'm in the process of taking it from where I left it up, redesigning the pattern again. But in this video, I try to, fix that top, and pretty much all of them need fixing. But after trying this one, the second one, I wanted to take the thread, the old stitches out of the neckline and the armpits, and quickly I noticed that that is a lot of work, and I'm not entirely sure if I want to continue fixing those samples. So I might do one more, but the rest I will continue wearing them while I'm redesigning the top. And that design is a dartless sleeveless top, and I have not perfected yet. So thank you so much for watching. And my sewing style is, having a wardrobe that is comfortable, minimal, that I can wear everything in my wardrobe, wash them, and wear them all. So that is the idea behind it. So therefore, matching, I want the multiple tops to be able to match multiple pants. And yeah, and as designing those and sewing those samples and wearing them and creating videos and creating thumbnails, taking pictures and creating thumbnails, I noticed that some colors looks good on me than others. And one color is brown and all shades of brown. So therefore, having my top in brown color is something I'm looking forward to. But I want to get the top perfected first. So, and I wanted to design a dartless top, because I have a pear-shaped body, and that top is dartless, no dots, but I cut it in bias so that it can flow. So that is the process, and cutting in bias uses more fabric, but that structured fabric won't look boxy when you wear it, because it's cut in on bias. So, and again, learning to design our own pattern and having basic patterns for the top, sleeveless top, long sleeve top, have a sleeve pattern, and have simple regular pants patterns. I perfected the regular pant pattern, but I'm still struggling with the top to get it right. So, but again, I like to use the right fabric to sew, because again, those samples becomes what I'm wearing as I keep making it. So that's why I don't use muslin. One of my kids chose muslin for me to sew her sample in it, and I sewed the top with a different color for the neckline and the armhole, just like the way this design looks, and it's perfect on her. The muslin fabric was soft, and it really fits her well. In fact, that is the best sleeveless top that I was able to sew her out of everything that I sew her for school wardrobe this year. that one is one of the best that I was able to sew her, and I'm not entirely sure if I kept that pattern, because each time I redesign the pattern from scratch, I will discard it, the one that are not good, and I'll take notes. I'll put notes on the one that are okay. So yeah, even with Muslim, using different contrasting color for you know um the neckline and the armhole, it was good on her. I thought it would be see-through, but it's not. But I prefer to use regular fabric, just not expensive fabric, for my simple. And if it's good, it's just become something I can wear. So what do you think? Do you think that fixing is better than the original version? Will you please share your opinion and your advice with us in the description, in the comment section of this video? Thank you so much for your time. I'm Afiavi Liberman, creator of Liberman Consulting LLC YouTube channel, and in sub.com, our blog. On our channel and on our blog, we share different ways to save money and different ways to make money to reach your financial independence, where you do not depend on your employer to provide for your family. And sewing your own garment, in my opinion, is one way to save money. I hope so. But again, at the same time, using the creative side of your brain, I'm very analytical, and I think I use quite a bit of my skills when I'm sewing, because I design and I think and improve and redesign the pattern. So there is a lot of thinking and creativity skills used there. So there is so much, you know, skills there to gain, at the same time saving money and wearing things that is sustainable on our skin and gentle on our skin as well. So I have eczema, um, dry skin and eczema type of skin. So moving toward a natural fiber, you know, fabric is something I'm looking forward to. Yes, I have cardigan in polyester that I wear, and I wear them until I sew my own. They are good to be worn. I'll wear them, but as I'm sewing my own things, I like to sew them in natural fiber, and I pick two to work with. As I'm learning the skills, I pick cotton and linen to work with, but right now I'm focusing on cotton, and even within cotton, I'm focusing on those structured fabric to work with, and I like to create that less top first before we talk about you know added tops. So thank you so much for your time. We thank you very much for watching our video, and thank you very much for subscribing to our channel. Thank you.